Good evening. Welcome to Live United. Living United, where we have an opportunity to share and learn more about all the great things happening here in the Monadnock region that make a difference in the lives of our citizens. Today I have the good fortune to welcome Liz Chipman. Liz is from the Keene Housing Kids Collaborative. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you, Kelly.
Liz is the executive director there. And Liz, this is a relatively new initiative here in the Monadnock region. And wow, how fortunate are we and how exciting is this?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here doing this. You're right, we're a new organization. We were incorporated just last December as a nonprofit, and we work specifically with kids that are living in housing that's owned or managed by Keene Housing, and voucher holders as well for rent subsidy. So all the kids that we serve live in Keene or Swansea. There's properties in Keene and Swansea, and then also on the private market there's rent assistance voucher holders scattered throughout Cheshire County. So we're all over the place.
So why was this program brought into the Monadnock region?
Well, it's really an initiative that started, it's the brainchild of the executive director at Keene Housing, Josh Meehan, and he, like other executive directors at housing authorities throughout the country, know that the kids, low-income household, kids that live in low-income households often have gaps, and this is what we're trying to kind of reduce the gaps that we found between low-income kids and kids that come from middle-class or more affluent households. Things like opportunity gaps, achievement gaps in school, social gaps in social-emotional skills. So we see the need here in Keene. All the kids that live in housing, Keene Housing, come from low-income households, and generally speaking, we have found that kids from low-income households do have some gaps in school achievement. They're 70% more likely to arrive at kindergarten with not the reading readiness skills that kids from middle class or more affluent households have. And that kind of gap that they enter school with follows them throughout the rest of their school experience and into adulthood or post-secondary schooling as well. So this need that a lot of low-income kids have is here in Keene as well. So that's really why this organization was formed, to try to address that.
You know, I know there's been a lot of research done on the issue of, they call it 30 million words, I think.
Yes.
Where children, perhaps from low-income households, aren't exposed to as many words, as much reading, different just social, developmental activities that may go on.
That's right.
Partially because of the stressors that a family is facing.
Yes.
Just trying to meet their basic needs.
That's right. These families are living in an environment of scarcity, it's true. So they are focused on, they call it being in the tunnel. There's a book that recently came out called Scarcity, and it talks about this tunnel that people get in. If you're focused on just making the rent, or focused on just getting enough food or having enough money for food for that week, you're not able to focus on the other things that are outside of that metaphorical tunnel, things like reading to your kids, or even talking to kids. That 30 million word gap that you referenced, they found that kids, once they hit kindergarten or even age 3, have heard 30 million fewer words in a low-income household than in middle-class or more affluent households. And that's just kind of a cultural thing, and it's also something that parents are not always aware that they are their child's first teacher, and children are born learning. So you can get your child ready for and actually start their learning, their language development, from the day that they're born, and doing things that just talking to them while you're changing their diaper or counting their toes or playing games with them, all are not only just kind of fun interactions with your child, but they actually are building their brain and getting them ready for language development and for reading. So if there's, it also inflects their vocabulary as well. So kids from households where they haven't been spoken to as much and haven't had that interaction actually have much lower vocabulary when they hit kindergarten, and that influences their readiness to read and impacts them throughout the rest of their schooling. So that's the kind of thing, just educating parents about that also can be a big step. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to educate parents about the things that they can do with their kids that will get them ready for school. Because learning doesn't start when you hit kindergarten, it starts from the moment that you're born.
And I think we forget that it's not just about the academic development
Right.
piece. It's really around that social
That's right.
development and that ability to make friends and feel connected. And feeling connected becomes such an important part of our well-being for our whole lives.
That's right. And it also impacts your academic learning as well. We've been talking about gaps, and one of the other things that research has shown that by the time a middle-class child enters 6th grade, they have likely had 6,000 more learning hours outside of school time than a low-income child. And those 6,000 hours are comprised of things like being in a quality preschool program, going to museums, aquariums, summer camp, day camp, after-school programs. And that's a significant difference. 6,000 hours is a lot. And it's not just these, what we call enrichment activities or out-of-school activities, are valuable in and of themselves because they're good and fun experiences, but they also develop those non-cognitive or social-emotional skills that you were just talking about. They allow kids to learn cooperation, self-control, perseverance, develop social networks with their peers, and have an opportunity to develop relationships with adult mentors as well. So if kids don't have those experiences, then they don't develop those other social-emotional or non-cognitive skills as well. So that's one of the things that we're directly trying to address with the Kids Collaborative, is trying to make those kind of opportunities available to kids. Middle class and more advantaged parents, there's been research shown that they spend almost $7,000 a year on out-of-school activities for their kids. Parents who are low income, who are in an environment of scarcity, just don't have that kind of disposable income. They don't have the money to pay for a preschool program for their child, or after-school activities, music lessons, and those kind of things. So we have partnered with a lot of community organizations to try to make those kind of things available to the kids that live in Keene housing. For example, the YMCA, MOCO Arts, the Keene City Parks and Recreation Department, they've all stepped up and been very, very generous in their partnerships with us to help us make those kind of activities available to kids that live in Keene housing. And we want to allow parents in Keene housing to be able to say yes to their children. Yes, you can take swimming lessons. Yes, you can join the basketball team at the rec center. Yes, you can take dance lessons. So.
Now, is that happening right at the Keene housing locations, or is this something where the young person or the family even potentially has the opportunity to go out to the YMCA or to the Keene Rec Center? Yes, that's all in the
community. One of the things that we want to avoid is kind of keeping kids separate from the community because, again, those social connections with peers and with the community and with other adults in the community are so important. So yes, people can, they should, if you are a Keene Housing resident or a voucher holder through Keene Housing, you can contact me or come to our office at 5 Harmony Lane and sign up for the YMCA, Keene Parks and Rec, and that kind of thing, and we will direct you to the right folks to do that. But a good place to start is to give me a call.
So it would seem that transportation could be a significant
Yes.
issue. So have vans been worked out as part of this, or are the transportation services collaborating and stepping up?
We are not, presently we don't have any specific transportation for kids that live in Keene housing, but transportation comes up in the conversations a lot. And I know that it is a barrier for a lot of folks to get their kids to activities. So that's probably something in the future. I haven't bought a bus yet, Kelly, but I probably
I don't know
will be
if we need
doing
to,
that, a van, something like that. But
Well,
I agree, transportation is an issue for folks.
And really, we have an opportunity here because we have a lot of transportation, and we actually have a coalition on transportation. So this is certainly something. In fact, we're meeting this afternoon. So
Well, I might have to put that on my calendar. Yes.
So that would be something to connect to,
Absolutely.
I think, because there's certainly, and I know their Friendly Bus has been doing the whole, in the bus system here in Keene has been doing the hop on, hop off with the frog, and
It's hip to hop the bus,
yeah,
right?
it's hip to hop the bus, exactly.
Right.
So, I think people are trying to focus on really meeting needs and how they can collaborate and bring this together. But when you talk about that scarcity, transportation is oftentimes
Absolutely.
an issue, and, both parents may be trying to work to make ends meet, and oftentimes they don't have the luxury of being able to leave work and have
That's
that
absolutely
flexibility.
right, and schedules are not always consistent, particularly if you're working in a retail environment or a service sector environment. Your schedule's not always the same every week, so it's hard to plan. If swimming lessons are every Wednesday at 5 o'clock, some weeks that might work for you, and some weeks it might not. So there's a lot of challenges that folks are dealing with. So it's my job to try and remove as many barriers as I can to allow folks to have their kids participate in these kinds of things.
So I think, there's sort of the short-term piece. There's really helping with the social, the emotional development end of this. What's the long-term impact? Because there's something about this concept that will be lifelong for
Yes,
these
that's
young
exactly
people.
right. Thank you for asking that question. The short-term impact is that if we have kids that are socially, emotionally skilled and have all the experiences that help them to be a well-rounded person and to use their brains to their maximum potential, then the short-term gains are that there will be less need for special education, less likelihood of repeating grades. Kids that are at reading level, at grade level in reading and math at third grade are much more likely to graduate from high school. So again, it's something that follows you all the way through school. So the short-term benefits are doing better in school now, succeeding in school, succeeding in the community now, and then the long-term benefits, of course, are that we hope that kids will be able to access social mobility and make it to the middle class. So kind of break the cycle of poverty and not repeat it in the next generation, so that they won't have to live in subsidized housing. I guess that's the plainest way to say it, is that success in career and economic success. One of the issues that we are here to address is that really at the bottom of it, we believe in the American dream. We believe that everyone should be able to succeed and achieve social mobility through hard work, perseverance, and education, regardless of the circumstances of their birth. And in this country right now, that's becoming less and less likely to happen. Most people who are born into poverty remain in poverty. Most people that are born into affluence remain in affluence. So it's kind of sticky at the top and the bottom of our economic ladder. We want to give kids, the long-term goal is to give them access to the social mobility ladder and to be able to rise to their potential through their own efforts and hard work. And right now, kids that are born into poverty or low income do not have the same opportunity to do that that kids born into the middle class do.
And I think what we see as a result of that, and I've watched it for years in the work that I do, is you don't break that cycle. If we don't intervene early, in these early years for these young people, they'll be our next generation that's living in the subsidized housing. And it becomes, I can remember I worked over in Vermont at one point, and I can remember one of the firemen saying to me, we've watched 3 generations of families come through the same housing units over here. And he said, how do we break that? How do we bridge them out of this poverty and into a new life?
That's right.
So really, the Kids Collaborative, what a fantastic initiative that's taking place, and of course right here in our own region.
That's right.
I don't know if this is happening anywhere else in New Hampshire.
I don't know of anyone that is using the same model that we are in terms of providing opportunities with partnerships in the community. I know there's quite a few models where there's a specific after-school program for kids, specific kind of workforce readiness programs and that kind of thing, but I don't know of anyone else that is trying to kind of do this broad, providing opportunities for kids that will build their socio-emotional, non-cognitive skill level, so to speak, so that they'll be able to succeed in school. And we're looking at, the collaborative is looking at things that we can do for really the younger, really younger kids as well. I know that you were at the conference in Manchester on early learning, and then also the one that we had here in Keene. But one of the things that we're looking at is the things, because parents are their children's first teacher. That's been true, you know, since people have been having children. So if we can have parents teach parents what they can do for their kids when they're really little, before they reach school, to get them ready for school, then we'll be doing a really good thing to get kids ready to succeed
in life.
School. That's
and,
exactly.
And we'll be preparing them for life,
That's
not
exactly
just
right.
school, but for
That's
life
exactly
and the
right.
workforce and
That's right.
all these other areas that will allow them to succeed and
That's right.
to move out of their current
That's right.
situations.
And I wanted to just kind of comment on that cycle of poverty that we've been talking about. I think it's important to remember or to say out loud for folks that it's people don't stay in poverty because they're not working hard, because they're not smart, because they don't care. I've talked to a lot of parents that live in Keene housing, you know, informally, kind of in the parking lot or whatever in front of their homes, and then at activities, agency activities. And they want the same things for their kids that all parents do. They want their kids to do well in school and succeed and have friends and be happy and go to college and get a good job as adults. They want the same things. They don't necessarily have the same resources to invest in their children that other parents might, middle class and affluent parents might. We invest a lot in our kids. And parents that live in poverty just don't have those resources to invest. And you know, most of the people that live in Keene housing are working. They're working hard, working every day to try and, you know, keep food on the table and provide things for their kids, but often are working in jobs that don't pay a lot. They're working as hard as I am, as many hours as I am in a week, but they're not bringing home, you know, as much money to do things for their families. So it's not because people don't care and because they're not working hard or because they're not smart. And it's the same for the kids in school. It doesn't matter how smart a child is if they don't have the behavioral skills or the social skills to kind of listen to direction and sit down and take their turns and that kind of thing and cooperate. They're not going to do as well in school, no matter how smart they are. We all know people who are very socially gifted who might not be the smartest person, but if you're socially gifted, you can go a long way, and it doesn't always work in the opposite direction. So it's not because, you know, the kids that are struggling in school, it's not necessarily because they're not smart, not really bright, but they just might not have all the stuff in their toolbox that some other kids have. So we're trying to provide the opportunities that will give them more stuff in their toolbox to succeed. And they also, you know, there's a lot of stressors, can be a lot of stressors at home and stuff. And if you're hungry, it's really hard to focus. So there's other things too that come into it. But we're trying to work on the piece that we have control over, and that's the opportunity piece and giving kids those other skills that they can wrap around their intelligence and their school experience to help them succeed.
Now, you talked about working with the Y and other organizations, really around the sort of social, emotional development end of things. What are you doing with the parents?
We don't have a specific program for parents right now. That's one of the things that we've been working on. This two-generation approach is had a lot of research lately and getting a little bit of traction because obviously if you can do a lot of stuff with a kid, but if you put them right back in the same kind of stressful or non-supportive environment that they might be in, it's hard to ask a child to be a change agent for the family. So you're right, working with parents will probably come be in our plans in the future. I'm working with the board of directors right now on strategic planning, so that's one of the things that we'll probably be looking at as we move into the future.
And there's certainly programs you can collaborate with out there. You know,
Absolutely.
we've got the Healthy Start through HCS, you've got Family Time through Monadnock Family Services. So there's just a wealth of resources that probably can be brought to
Absolutely.
into collaboration.
And that's why we are called the Kids Collaborative, because that's what we're about, is working with. If someone's already doing something well in the community, it doesn't make sense for me to try and replicate that or to duplicate that. So definitely working with community partners that are already experts in their area and doing good things is kind of our model moving forward.
You know, I remember Josh was on the show at one point, the executive director of Keene Housing, Josh Meehan, and he talked about that the Cheshire housing here was really in kind of a unique situation, the Keene housing, because you'd essentially been able to sort of throw out the books that are attached to the normal HUD guidelines on how you manage things. Is this a result of that you get to create and be innovative like this and really thinking about how to break the cycle?
That's exactly right. It's called something called Moving to Work, and there's 39 housing authorities in the country that are kind of these demonstration sites, and Keene Housing is one of them, and there's more flexibility with what you can do with your funds in the Moving to Work program. And our seed money, the startup money for the Kids Collaborative, is coming from that Moving to Work money. So yes, kudos to Keene Housing.
Really?
I think they're real forward-thinking as an agency to try and figure out kind of a different way of trying to help the younger residents of Keene Housing and to, again, access that social mobility and break that cycle.
You know, and what's interesting about that, it dates back even prior to Josh, of course, with Kurt Hebert, and actually a collaborative group of people from the Monadnock region, you know, MFS and the Monadnock Collaborative and Pilot Health all coming together and saying, can we do anything different?
Right.
And Kurt just sort of taking the bull by the horns and running with it and making some of that happen, and then Josh has just built on that.
Yeah, I think that's what's really unique about this Monadnock region. I wasn't real familiar with Keene before I started working here. I'm in Concord, so I drive over, but it's been wonderful. This is such a great community, and everyone really is committed and investing in lifting everyone, lifting the whole community. And I think there are other communities that kind of give lip service to that, but I've seen that in action here in the Monadnock region. So I'm really excited to be here and to be a part of making this new initiative work. I'm excited to see what our outcomes are and how it grows over time.
We are fortunate. We do have an amazing giving workforce out there, and not just workforce, but neighbor to neighbor and citizen to citizen, both on the giving level, volunteering, being advocates for people. You know, it's the name of the show, Give Volunteer Advocate.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, because people here really do live united.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any opportunity for people to be involved in this initiative.
Well, if anyone has thoughts or is a member of an organization that you think would like to partner with us so that we can, you know, have more opportunities for the kids that live in Keene Housing, I would love to talk to you. Love to hear from you. We have limited specific volunteer opportunities at this time, but again, we're doing strategic planning, so depending on what we decide, we may be doing for direct service. We don't have a lot of direct service right now, but when we have a clearer picture of that, maybe that we will need more volunteers. We do have a drop-in after-school program at 2 of our properties, at Forest View and at North and Gilsum. There's community centers there. So we do need volunteers to come in and do things with the kids at those 2 properties, and that's in the after-school hours from 3 to 5. So if you're interested in doing that, you can also contact me, and we're always looking for new activities and things for the kids to do at those two after-school programs.
And is that Monday through Friday?
Yeah, it's 2 days a week. It's Tuesday and Thursday at Forest View, and then Wednesday and Friday at North and Gilsum.
Okay. And how many young people are you finding involved with this initiative right now?
Well, it's right now most of the things that we have are in the kind of the elementary age kids, you know, I'd say 5 to 12 or so. And we have about 515 kids between the ages of 0 and 18 that live in Keene housing, and I'd say there's probably 100 or so right now that are involved in the different activities that we have. We're looking for ideas for things to do with the middle school and high school aged kids, and we will probably be developing those over the next 6 months or so. But most of the activities, of course, the rec center has activities for kids that are a little bit older, and we've also tried to get kids involved in the Young Entrepreneurs Academy through Keene State. So, but right now, primarily, it's elementary age kids. Around 100 or so, I would say, are involved right now. But that's pretty good, I guess, for our first 3 or 4 months of getting up and running. So,
it sure is.
yeah.
And you know, the fact that you're still involved with strategic planning,
Right.
and really thinking about how you address the whole array of youth that are living there. Now, I would guess that you probably have grandparents that somehow need to connect to this as well.
That's right. If you are a grandparent, don't necessarily live in Keene housing, but you might, one of your grandchildren lives in Keene housing, again, contact me, and we will get you on the right path to getting your grandchild signed up.
So Dave's going to
stuff.
pull up for us your contact information, but why don't you share that with the public?
Sure. My phone number is 283-5464. So 283-5464, and then you could contact me. My email as well is lchipman@keenekidscollaborative.org, and that's Chipman like potato chip.
Now, do you have a website yet?
We don't have a web presence. You can go to the Keene Housing website, and there is information about the Kids Collaborative on the Keene Housing website, and that's just keenehousing.org. We have a Facebook page, if you're interested in finding about what we have available, that's probably the best place to look. So you can like us on Facebook, and we do, update, put activities. I know everybody says like us on Facebook. So, but if you look for us on Facebook, Keene Housing Kids Collaborative, you'll see all the current activities that we have available, and then we also update that, so you would be able to get that in real time.
So I really want people to think about this. So you have over 500
Yes.
Young people living in this environment, and you're really developing this social, emotional, developmental piece for all age levels, trying to break that cycle of poverty. I want people to realize that there's a certain level of stress, and we call it toxic stress that occurs, especially in early childhood, that can have lifelong impact on their lives. And that this is really an opportunity to intervene at an early stage and to provide support throughout their lives to really begin to move them into a different kind of environment and lifelong wellness.
That's right.
Are you focusing on health at all as part of the initiative?
We have participated in Family Be Fit, which is a program through the Cheshire Medical Center and the YMCA, so we're trying to get families engaged in that. And that is one of those 2-generation programs that we mentioned before, where parents and their children together get nutrition classes and then also some physical activity classes. The Y does the physical activity part, and then a dietetic interns from Keene State do the nutrition part. So it's a 2-part effort. So that's most specifically what we're working with health, and then also everything at the YMCA, of course, is based on health. So physical activity, swimming, definitely is a health issue, both for physical and the safety point of view. So the swimming lessons through the Y. And then I would say a lot of it is emotional health and mental health. You talk about toxic stress. So to be able to take a dance class at MoCo Arts or theater, or go to the Cheshire Children's Museum, or go take a horseback riding session at Miracles in Motion, which is one of our new partners out on Wyman Road. That's a break from and a release from any toxic stress that might be happening in the home. Gives you empowerment to feel something that you're competent at and learning something new. And also, one of the other things about providing all these opportunities for kids is you never know what's going to spark somebody. You never know what might turn into their lifelong passion, or something that will allow them a creative or emotional outlet. So the other thing about giving kids lots of opportunities is not everything will stick, right? They'll like some things and they won't like some things, but it might give them an opportunity to do one thing that really sparks them and gives them an idea of what they want to do for work, or what they want to do with their creative talents, or what they might do for the rest of their lives. So that's another thing that kids who get all these different kinds of opportunities kind of take for granted, is that it does give them an opportunity to explore what they like, what they're good at, what they can accomplish. So that's another thing about giving kids all these kind of different opportunities. So.
You know, and it's interesting because they talk a lot about building resilience in young people, and that when they have those skills, when they have goals, when they have dreams,
That's exactly right.
when they have a support system out there, when they feel like they have equal opportunity to try things, it reduces bullying.
That's right.
But the other thing that it does is it reduces substance abuse potentially, reduces the crime rate. There's lots of things that are the long-term societal benefits that we forget early on.
That's right.
And really, if we can think of this almost as very proactive, preventative types of work that's going on, how can people support the work that Keene Housing is doing, the Kids Collaborative?
Well, you can send us money. That would be great. And also get the word out. One of the challenges that we've found is communicating with parents, because it's not one property, for example, where everyone's together, you know, where we can get the word out. Since people are kind of spread out all over the place, one of our challenges has been getting the word out to parents about what is available for their kids. So that's one thing, is just to get the word out about the Kids Collaborative and to let people know that we do have these things available for folks. And advocate for kids that might be struggling, volunteer time for all these different programs, anything that works with youth, because a lot of the organizations that we're partnering with are nonprofit as well, so they need your support and help.
You know, I just met Wes Moore earlier this year, and he's written a book called The Other Wes Moore, was his first book. And it was really about his life, and he was raised in Baltimore in poverty, and he won a scholarship. He really had a mentor. He got involved early on, had a big brother. Just lots of things came into his life and into play in his life. And he had some academic and sporting ability that really allowed him to thrive through his school years, even though he was coming from a poverty situation. And he was really embraced by the community and received a scholarship to go to England to college. And the reason he wrote about this is because at the same time that he had received the scholarship, another person named Wes Moore had committed a crime in Baltimore and murdered somebody. So there was all these headlines in the books about Wes Moore, and everybody associated it with him.
Right.
And he really, because he was living in the low-income housing and things, they thought, oh my gosh, this guy, you know, here he had opportunity. So he really had to get out in front of that and tell the story. And he said, I went off, did my college years, and on this scholarship, and had all this incredible support. And he said, and about 10 years later, I was in the workforce. And he said, and I got curious about why my life took this course and why the other Wes Moore's life took the course that it did. And so he met with him And they became friends. And one of the things that he recognized was that opportunity early in life to have people that were supporting him,
Yes.
to have that opportunity to experience things that his mom could not provide for him, but that other people did, which is
right.
what the Kids
That's
Collaborative
right.
is doing, made the difference his whole life through,
That's
gave
right.
him that opportunity to receive a scholarship, to go to college.
That's right.
And he said here, when his friends were making very bad choices, and he said, a lot of them are still living there.
Mm-hmm.
In the low-income housing, and he's initiated a whole project now, and he's an entrepreneur. He's done very, very well,
Right.
but he's now investing his money back into the youth of Baltimore, and
That's
really
wonderful.
has set up a program. His original program, he said, was to get them to college.
Right.
But he realized that a lot of them didn't have the skills and abilities because they hadn't been developed early on to keep them in college. So now his whole program is not just about getting them in college, but keeping them there and
That's
getting
right.
them through college. So he's built a whole support system, and interestingly enough, and much like you,
That's right.
it's really starting from birth all the way
That's
through
right.
12th grade,
That's
and,
right.
and making it happen for these kids.
And you never, it's like we said, you don't know what it is that's going to help a child make it through. A lot of it's internal, that resilience that
Yes.
you were talking about. But we all need help along the way. I think, anyone who is successful or just living a regular life, a normal life, will, if they look back on their childhood and growing up, will know and will recognize that there were people along the way, whether it was your parents or a coach or teachers, neighbors, there was someone that helped you as you were coming up. And a lot of the kids that we serve are kind of going it alone in a lot of ways, not because people don't care about them. Again, their parents care about them, but don't necessarily have the resources in the moment emotionally to give them the support and the help that they need, because they are struggling just in that environment of real scarcity to just try and make it day to day. So they don't necessarily have the resources to support their kids in the way that is most helpful. So if we can provide opportunities for kids to get that support, develop interest, and that self-reliance, resilience, goals, all those things, then it really will help them. And it's right for a lot of reasons. It's good for a lot of reasons. It's good for morally and ethically, it's the right thing to do. But also economically, it's the right thing to do. Anyone who likes to keep their taxes low should, be in support of what we're doing, because it will reduce, as I said, the need for special education for kids repeating grades. They won't, when kids break that cycle of poverty and become taxpayers themselves, it helps all of us to keep our taxes down. So for any kind of reason that you can, whatever side of the political spectrum you are on, it's a good idea for any reason that you can think of, or for any ideology that you can think of.
Yeah,
So,
and you and I both had an opportunity to see the retired CEO from Procter & Gamble speaking
Yes.
to this issue. And he said, if people can't do it for the right reason, which is just about taking care of our fellow human beings, he said, do it for the return on investment. Because, for every dollar every $7 we're going to spend on a child who is in need, we can be saving 6 of that.
Right,
It would
that's
cost us
right.
$1
That's right.
to do this preventative work.
James Heckman, who's a Nobel Prize-winning economist, did a return on investment for investment in children, and it's really high from birth to 3, and then kind of it goes down lower as you get through school. So the earlier we can intervene, and it's just the opposite. I think we saw this graph at that conference too. It's the opposite of our public investment in children. Starts out low when they're smaller and gets higher and higher as they get older, but the return on the investment is opposite.
It's
so
the
we really
opposite.
should start investing earlier.
And very true. And you know what's interesting, I just saw the results from work that the United Way in Salt Lake City is doing around early childhood. And they actually worked with several large corporations, invested in early childhood. And they had the schools actually agree that if there was a return on investment in terms of savings on special education, anything like that, that money would be returned to investors who chose to invest in early childhood. So Goldman Sachs, some other companies chose to invest, and this year, the first check is coming back to the investors. And the amount is over $200,000 coming back to investors in just 1 year because of the savings in the school system for special education.
Neat.
And they attribute it to the last 2.5 years of work that's gone on with these young children who are being prepared and to come into the school system. And because they had early identification, could be worked with, a lot of them were not in need of special
that's exactly right.
assistance. And we see that here locally now with a lot of our daycare centers are now doing the ASQ, and all the ones that work with the United Way are. And they're just beginning to see that students that are well prepared in that those daycare years, they can identify early on, and lots of the times those things can be addressed and they're just ready. And I bet we'll see that with the kids initiative.
That's exactly right. It's exciting. It's not theory. It's
Reality.
Actually, yes, it really happens. It's not just we think it will will help. It really does help. So it's exciting.
It's very exciting, and we're thrilled to have you here. I do want you to share again how people can contact you.
Okay. My phone number is 283-5464, and I'm Liz Chipman, the Executive Director at Keene Housing Kids Collaborative. Our office is at 5 Harmony Lane in Keene. You can stop by there as well anytime. We're usually there from about 8 to 4:30 or so. And Harmony Lane is off Court Street. Go on to Linden, and then at the stop sign turn right, and then go down Harmony Lane. We're right down there. And my email is lchipman@keenekidscollaborative.org.
And if people forget that, they can always call the United Way. We'll connect them to
Thank
you. And I'm sure if they call 211, they'll connect
Yes, that's right.
as well. And they could just call Keene Housing.
Absolutely.
If they can't remember the Kids Collaborative information.
That's right.
Do want to remind people, too, that you have an opportunity to volunteer at 2 of your locations in the after-school programming.
That's right.
And that could be reading, perhaps, doing arts,
Any
crafts.
kind of a craft.
If you have a particular skill or something that you'd really like to share with young people, great opportunity to do it and be a positive mentor. And my guess is that could be a one-time thing that they're maybe coming in to do, or it could be an ongoing
whatever you
project
have
that they-
interest or time in doing, we'd be certainly happy to talk to you and see if we can make it happen.
And that could be any age, I would guess, too.
Oh, sure.
You know, whether you're in your 20s or you're in your
absolutely.
60s or 70s.
Absolutely.
If you're looking to get out there and be involved,
That's
this is a
right.
great way to do
Sure.
it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
And prepare folks for the future.
That's right.
So we know how to contact you, Liz. You're in the middle of strategic planning. You've already got things up and running.
That's right.
What's your hope for the future?
My hope for the future is that, is that all the kids I'll tell you what my vision really is. I would like living in Keene housing to be an indicator of school achievement and high achievement for our students that are living in the Keene School District and the Monadnock School District. I would like the teachers to say, oh, that kid lives in Keene housing, they're going to do great. And I know because they live in Keene housing, they're going to do a great job. That's my hope.
What a great vision and what a great goal. And, you know, I can't think of a place other than the Monadnock region that'll make that happen so quickly.
I'm excited. It's a great place to be. Really happy to be here, and I know that we'll do great things.
And I'm guessing this innovation will also be shared with the other cohorts that are part of the non-HUD rules.
Yes, that's right, the moving to work folks.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that that is a goal that we'll be able to, disseminate this out, communicate out what we're doing and the model that we're doing and the outcomes that we have, and so it can be replicated in other areas, yeah.
And certainly even here within the Monadnock
right.
region in New Hampshire, we'll hope for that.
That's right.
Liz, I want to thank you for joining me. Any last thoughts you want to share with folks?
No, just thanks. Thanks for having me, Kelly. It's been a great conversation, and I look forward to working with you and with other folks in the community to do good things for the kids that are living in Keene housing.
Well, that's shared, and we do thank you for being here on the show, but also just thank you and the Keene Housing for really, taking this on and making it happen right here in our backyard. We always love to see that.
That's great.
So thanks again. So I want to thank you, audience, for joining us tonight, and I want to remind you that it's important to give, to volunteer, to advocate, whether it's for a program like the Keene Housing Kids Collaborative or for all the great programs that are happening out here in the Monadnock region. Think about how you can be involved. Think about how you can live united. Thanks again.